Well, hello, you beautiful people, and here we are once again with the Scouser and the Scot. Well, actually, it's just the Scot today. Big Ian's away making beautiful music with his band in the studio. Well, he tells me that's what it is. I'll have to take his word for it, but that's where he is. But anyway, let me introduce you to a wonderful young lady. If I say so myself, I'm a huge fan of hers, and that's the reason why I'm doing this interview. Amelia, how are you doing, honey? You okay?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm on a day off for work today, so that's always good.
That
Catching up
is great.
with things because unfortunately, even though at my age I still have to work because I've run up too many debts. Usually promoting bands has done it.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
My pension's freaking gone because of that, but never mind. They can't take the memories away. That's a certainty. So,
That is,
let's delve a little bit. I mean, I know you. The first time I met you or saw you was I think it must have been about August 2020, and you were playing an outdoor gig. It was at the time when you could do gigs outdoors and you had to sit at your own tables, and it was in
yeah.
Manchester.
I think that was the first band gig that
Yeah,
I ever did.
was it? Oh, yeah,
Edinburgh.
yeah, because
I'm pretty.
sorry, I'd gone with Tommy Taylor because I'd got to know Tom, and Tommy was headlining it, so we went across to it. And it was in a working men's club, if I remember right, but we were all out.
Yeah,
In fact, I think Kira Mack was on in that one as well.
she
Yeah,
was. Yeah.
and it was funny because a few months later, I contacted Tommy, and I says, "Who was that girl again that played before you?" I went to book her to come and play a festival of mine down in Wales. He went, "Oh, you mean Kira?" And I went, "No, I don't think that was her name." He automatically assumed because of my rock and metal background, that the one that was the rocks, because she was more rock. This was
Yeah.
before. This was her when she was still kind of nominally known as country, but she was rock.
Yeah, blending
And
in.
I
She's gone rock
and I
now.
went,
She's
no, the
fine.
little one, the little one. He went, oh, Amelia. And I went, yeah, yeah. So he gave me the details to contact you.
That's hilarious. Yeah, to be fair, the little one is absolutely justified in that scenario, considering Kira's like 6 foot something.
Yeah, that was the only way I could think of it. I said, well, I can't say female lead vocalist, and I can't say country. I said, so yeah, the short one, the shorter one, the little one. And he went, oh,
One,
that's definitely.
that is a great identifier for me, to be honest.
I didn't want to get into trouble by describing any other shape or form, you know what I mean? Because, but it was just funny because he automatically assumed that it would be the Rocky one, and I'm like, no, mate,
Yeah.
this is a country festival I'm putting on. So, and eventually it was cancelled that one, but eventually he did come down and play for me at the Patriot and the Desperado Festival on the Friday night. I remember because we were just talking about it because before we came on air that you're you had to shoot off straight away afterwards because you had to play first because of an illness with one of the musicians' kids, I think,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
baby was a little bit poorly, so we had to shoot back up straight away.
When
Um,
you say the word shoot, it was a 7 hour journey back up.
yeah, so shoot for 7 hours. That's quite intense, but yeah, it was all right. No, I get it because I love the lineup was great, like the Backwards Creek Boys and the Fargo Boys. Fargo Boys, I'm still very much in touch with. Just actually joined them on tour for a few dates. So it was shaping up to be a really good night. So I'm glad we had to miss it, but very pleased to have come down. And I think I'm pretty certain that was my first ever gig in Wales as well.
Yeah, yeah, cracking venue as well. I mean, you should see it now. They've done it up even more now. It's they've got
Oh,
green rooms and everything, shower rooms downstairs and everything. They've spent a lot of money on it. It's absolutely fabulous. But yeah, I remember you went down fantastically well that night. And as you say, I've worked with the Fargo boys on a couple of occasions. They're just superb. Backwoods Creek at that time were actually signed to a young band mentoring program that I used to run with a lady called Tina. Forge Ahead of music, Forge Ahead. Um,
yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing Katie O'Malley was on that for a bit as well, wasn't she?
yeah, I still work with Katie. I still work with Katie with my
Oh,
management thing now. Yeah, she's cool. But yeah, so yeah, as I say, I know the Backwoods Creek. I don't know if they're even playing now. I haven't seen them around anywhere.
I don't know. I mean, I have like, I don't, my life went very strange. Went into sort of the year of the snake last year and shed a lot of things. And I've kind of been out of the loop a bit in terms of the scene, especially the country scene. But it's, I see a lot of their stories are like Yannick jetting off everywhere and anywhere.
Oh yeah,
So,
he's a rock and roll gypsy. Yeah, he's just anywhere.
uh, amazing. And he's a good guy. I
Yeah.
do get on with him, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Ah, they were a fantastic band. As I say, they did quite a few shows for me, and they always went down an absolute storm. So let's talk a little bit about. Okay, so you're young. So what brought you into country? Because it's not. I mean, I think you were into country before the kind of became popular again.
But yeah, I've done the kind of the opposite thing of I was like I kind of came into country sort of 2018, 2019, and it was purely because one of my tutors at uni, I was doing artist development sessions with them, and they said, "Hey, you've got a bit of a twang to you. I think you're a little bit country." And I was like, "Oh, all right, then, yeah, I'll explore that path." Discovered a whole UK country music scene. Absolutely loved them. You know, fell in love with the music, fell in love with the people. And then as it's kind of become popular, just and it's no way a reaction to the popularity of it. I think it's great, but I've kind of wound up going more. I was more blues rock before, and I've kind of edged back that direction. Sort of found Americana in that time, and feel kind of Americana in these days probably folk rock. Actually, probably suits what I am writing and putting out a little bit more than country does these days. And just, but I mean, it's just evolution. It's because I don't write for a genre. I write what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling, and that's ends up being whatever it is, and I just have to put a genre in and release it.
Yeah, it's difficult as well because, I'm constantly having to do that with the artists I still work with and have done with in the past. And it's
Mm.
that, and I tend to like artists that aren't just one genre, they are in the middle of a Venn diagram, but it becomes a nightmare when you have to put it on Spotify and all that because that's all they want for fans of, and that's what the whole algorithm thing's about. So it's quite difficult. But yeah, you're right because Katie, you mentioned Katie there, Katie O'Malley, that's Katie on the bad side. They're the same, you know what I mean? The first track I ever played in my radio show of hers was like quite country, and I remember I used to play your songs quite a bit, and then you brought out a song maybe 3 or 4 years ago that was just not, it was pop, and I was a bit surprised. I can't remember what it was. It was a single.
I feel like it's girl talk.
Yeah, and you came out a lot on social media saying I don't just do country, and I'm like, get back to, and I'm like in my head I'm going get back to country. It was a good song though. Yeah, yeah, but it's right. I mean, I can't remember who it was that I heard them saying about it lately, and they say you should make music to suit yourself. Don't try to make music for anybody else. Make it for yourself, and then find your
It's
crowd.
the biggest creative block you can give yourself, in my opinion, particularly as a songwriter. And I've given myself horrendous writer's block many, many times, sort of starting to write something and then going, oh no, this isn't that genre, or I mean, it must sound a certain way or it must fit a certain box. Because that's not how I started writing. I just started writing for the sake of it. And like, because it was there and it just happened. And I would write across all sorts of genres, when I was really starting to explore that avenue. So I always, when I'm trying to sort of come back from any writer's block or kind of reground myself, and I give this advice to anybody who's going in writer's block as well, write for yourself because really, when you're writing, particularly when you're writing on your own, no one's listening. No one ever needs to hear it. You can write the worst song in the world and no one would ever need to hear it, but you just write for you. And if it turns out good and you feel it and you want to put it out, do that. Decide later what it's going to be. And I did a show called Storytelling Underground with Sophie Rose and Susanna Clegg at Hen House Presents in Manchester.
Oh
Just
yeah, I
did it
know
last month.
them. Yeah, they're lovely.
They're great, and I like to. I do like sort of. I lean more towards the alternative Americana, rootsy, bluesy side of things. But that's the music that I love as well. So it's obviously going to influence. But I said on stage, I said, I call myself Americana and I genre myself because I have to when I upload music onto Spotify, like you said, because they require you get a primary genre, you get a secondary genre, and that's it. It's so
Mm.
limited. But really, I'm just it's music. I write music and that comes out however it comes out. There's no I don't ever want to pigeonhole myself to try and make it big in a genre or try and fit in anywhere. I've never fit in anywhere. It's not my MO. So I'm going to do what I do, and if people enjoy it, then they enjoy it. If they connect with it, that's the key thing. Doesn't matter what genre it is.
No, you're spot on. I think I'll tell you who it was. It was Rick Rubin. That's who it was.
Yeah.
And it was Rick
Oh,
Rubin saying, "I've never ever." He says, "I've never ever created anything with anybody with a view to pleasing anybody." He says, "We please ourselves." He says, "Then we hope other people like it."
I love Rick Rubin. I love his ethos. He used to be one of my idols when I was doing music production. Because I wasn't going to be an artist. I was going to be a producer, and then I went down the artist path and never looked back. But he was definitely one of my icons when I was in that phase. And I love his work and I love his ethos and his attitude towards it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've read a couple of his biographies or his autobiographies, and they're absolutely amazing. And
Yeah,
especially well, I knew him because of all the Def Jam stuff, but then obviously I started really into it when he started working with Johnny Cash because it was so left field
yeah.
initially, and but those albums are just absolutely stunning, and he just strips it back. You know what I mean? That's all he's done. He stripped it back to what was important, and as an artist, again, that's I think that's what's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's about the craft and it's about crafting music and songs regardless of everything else. It's taking them as their live because they are living beings. I think songs to me they are living beings. They evolve with time. They can go in any direction. They grow. Everybody's got their interpretation of them. And so having you can feel it when artists and when producers have got a real respect for the craft and for the song and the music and they handle it with that respect, and that's I think that's when it turns out the best work really.
So how have you ever struggled like in a studio with a producer or something that's just trying to do something with it that you don't want it to go down? And I think this is the thing because I used to sing with bands, but I never ever played an instrument. So for me, it was completely frustrating. It was like locked in syndrome for me because I couldn't get my way across. I couldn't get my way across what I wanted. I could envisage it, but I couldn't show it. You know what I mean? So I used to find you're different. You can play the guitar. I know that. So I've seen you, but that's different. But have you ever had that?
I have, and I think this we're going to bring this in because it is relevant, but I think also being a woman in the studio has kind of amplified that in a way as well.
Right?
um, I do get I have been in scenarios and they've been very few and far between thankfully, and to be fair they've been very limited because I tend to sort of catch that kind of vibe and then cut off and just go no, that's not happening. But I have been underestimated in the studio. I've been kind of told, oh no, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, why not? Why can't I do that? Give me a good reason as to why. Or, this isn't possible and it's just because and no shade, but it's because their skills were limited, but they chose to tell me that it was impossible to do and that I was too picky or too ambitious. And I'm like, there's no such thing in my world as too ambitious. I don't think there's any such thing for anybody. There shouldn't be any such thing, as being too ambitious. And I have had, yeah, I've had sort of saying, oh, but you should do this and you should do that. And I'm like, and this is what I would say to anybody that I work with as well, whether I have produced them or I have written with them or I'm just giving them advice over a cup of tea. The only thing you should be doing in art is what feels right. And there's no handbook for art, there's no manual, there's no rules. That's the whole point. It's creative. It's an expression of self. There is no should. So I don't get on with those people very much, and I don't tend to stay around them. I have been very fortunate to work with some absolutely phenomenal engineers and musicians in the studio where I've just said, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm envisioning happening. And I have one that really comes to mind was my debut album, Wanderlust and Breaking Rules. And I went into Motor Museum Studios because I actually found that through Kira Mack. Funnily, she was recording there when I visited her in the studio, and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. So I booked it for my album, and Ben Harper was the new engineer there. I absolutely love Ben. I think I've got all the time in the world for Ben. I think he's a brilliant engineer, brilliant producer, fantastic mixing engineer. I haven't used him personally, but I've heard his mixes and they're great. And I remember we hadn't met yet, and he rang me up and I booked 2 days in the studio, two 12-hour sessions, and said, I want to get 10 tracks live tracked in 2 days. I think it's doable. I will make sure that the band is really rehearsed, really on it, so we can go for it. Because I had a limited budget, and that's what was feasible at the time for me to be able to go and do. And he called me up before the session and said, hey, I respect what you're doing, what you're trying to aim for. I really do want to manage your expectations. I don't think we're going to get all 10 tracks done in 2 days. And I was like, with all due respect, I think we will. So that's what we're going to plan to do. We're going to try. And then if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, that's fine. I'll revisit, but it will happen. I'm going to tell you right now. And he's like, okay. He's like, I just wanted to manage your expectations. And fair play, he'd never met me. I could have been a massive diva and kicked off if it hadn't happened. But we go into the studio, we get going. Day one, 5 tracks down. Day two, 5 tracks down. We got all 10 down in the 2 days with time to spare. And he turned to me and just went, fair play, fair enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Hi, nice to meet you. And he loved it, and I loved it. And it was just, I completely understand the managing expectations, but I also love that he was like, well, sure, okay, if that's what you want to do, let's give it a go. And that's the attitude for me. That's the attitude to approach it with. Have the discussion around it, but just give it a go, and have faith and have trust in each other as creatives, and people, in the studio. And the way that he gelled in with the band and with us as well, it was just immediate.
Mm.
He's really, I can't recommend that place highly enough to anybody, to be honest, because it really was a brilliant experience. And that's why I went back for Dented Halos as well. Did it in a slightly different way. But that's the energy that I bring, and I like to meet people at. Um, and so the ones that don't and sort of have that pushback, or I'll give it ear love when I'm packing equipment
Oh
down.
God. Yeah,
Oh,
I can almost
do
hear
that.
that.
We don't want to do that. Don't, let's not do that. They don't hang around in my orbit for very long.
Quite right too. Like you say, I get chills there when you said it. I thought, oh my God, I can almost hear it being said. I mean,
Mm,
I remember the first time I went into the studio. I mean, we're talking the early 80s, so it was at the time when it was tape, and
yeah,
and your demo tape was a demo tape. It was like a cassette. And we got this guy, and we'd been told he was good. So he recorded it, and he says, what do you think? And I'm like, oh my God, sounds like you've mixed it with a Kenwood chef, which was a thing back in the day. And I'm like, I says to the rest of the guys, I says, Christ almighty. So I went away out, I got a cassette player, brought it in, and I brought some album where I really liked the production. I went, that's what I sent you. What makes you think that sounds? I think it was an Iron Maiden or something like that. What makes you think that? And he went, all right, okay. I don't think I'm the man for you. I said, you've taken our money. You better make yourself the man now very quickly. And it came to our way of thinking. But yeah, it was always something I was wary of, that they wouldn't be able to not do it justice, but I always felt like they should become part of the project. They're there to make it work.
absolutely. It's people who want to, and there are different styles, and there are people that are going to go into the studio and want someone who's a bit more sort of stand back, just engineer it. They don't want the input. But I think having that, it's all about communication, having that conversation first. And you go in and you set the expectation, like Ben did with me, manage expectations, set the expectations, and have, verbally say like, I would like your input, or I would just like, we're good for the input. We just want to do what we're doing, and having that sort of communication around it. And I mean, doing audio production at uni, and I do self-produce some stuff. I've actually just started also producing with the Country Women project, that I'm part of, which is I'm loving being back in the producer's seat for that. But I've always been such a believer in just having that open communication, not creating any sort of barriers, not shaming anybody for not knowing the technical terms, and just making sure that everybody knows that they have a voice in the process, because that's how you're going to work best together, in my opinion. That's how we're going to collaborate. Is it music, and creating music with other people is a collaboration, whether it's one name or all the names going on it, whether it's a group band or a solo artist. As soon as you involve somebody else, it has to be a collaboration to work, or it's just going to be friction, or it's going to be clinical, or you're not
Mm.
going to have a soul to it. Everybody brings their little piece of soul to it, and that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, of course it is. They can add their the little bit of texture and a little bit of shades of colour into it. And if they can bring something that you hadn't thought about, and it just makes it magical. That sprinkling of fairy dust, and you go, oh my God, that's. I mean, I'll give you an example, and I'm just going to talk to you about. I'm going to come on to your latest album, and obviously I've told you before how much I love it. But it's the track "Take It All."
Yes. Oh wow.
which I think is one of the best songs I've ever heard, and I'm saying that honestly. But the actual
That's
song, the
for the conversation, to be
no, no,
honest.
I mean seriously, it's kind of one of the songs I listen to the most. But the guitar solo at the end is beautiful, and I'm a guy that's worked with metal and worked with rock bands and been in metal bands and rock bands, you know what I mean? So I've heard myriads, but I just thought it was perfect. The tone and what the guitarist did in it was
Mm.
just perfect. And that was the bit that, I love the song, but then if it come to a guitar solo and it was kind of like formulaic and just not right, that would have killed it for me. But it doesn't. It's just beautiful. I was listening to it earlier and I was like, yeah, I remember. I must mention that guitar bit because it's just perfect.
Oh, that's great because that's John. So John W. Doyle is my guitarist. He's also an artist himself as well, and has that sort of writer, songwriter creativity in him. But he also produced the album.
Ah, brilliant. Didn't Well, if he can't make himself sound good, there's something wrong.
Yeah,
But
but no, he
I'll tell you what it was. It reminded me, one of my favourite songs is Natalie Imbruglia's Torn. And
ah,
and if you remember the guitar bit at the end of it, well, I think it's perfect. And when I heard the guitar bit at the end of your track, I was like, it took me straight back to that. Because I always say that to people that if you want to hear a perfect tone, you want to hear a guitar that's not there to show off the guitarist, but there to augment the track. That's perfect, and I think that's what I would say to that. So, yeah, well done, that man.
oh, awesome. Well, he actually, what's interesting that you brought that up in terms of like people having their influence and their creativity. That track was completely different when we put it in the studio. I didn't know he was going to produce it with an orchestra,
It's
and
beautiful.
he did a demo version based off what we did in the studio, and we'd never discussed it. He had this idea and he took it and ran with it, and then sent it to me one day and just said, "Right, I've done something." And either gonna love it or hate it, but and either way is fine. But I just needed to do it, and he said it to me, and he called it the Marmite mix because it was either gonna love it or hate it. And I was like, oh, okay, what's this? And I listened to it, and then listened to it again, and I was crying because it was just so I'd never even imagined it could sound like that. And I went back to him and just put wow, and he was like, wow, what? This has been the longest 5 minutes of my
Wow.
entire life. What do you think? And I was like, this is absolutely spot on incredible. It wasn't even in the realm of my thinking of taking that track in that direction. So that was his creative input doing that. And that was the openness to the collaboration in that for him to be able to do that, run with it, and then, send it on and be like, what do you think? And obviously I put it on the album because it sounds phenomenal, but it is worlds away from what we recorded in the studio.
It is, and that's just a perfect example because I think when I first time I listened to it, I was in the car and I must have listened to it 3 or 4 times in a row, just kept going back to it. And I seem to remember putting something in social media at the time saying this would probably be like end of last year. I think you released it in September. So it was around about that time. And I said, one of the big, if that song was brought out by one of the big divas, that would
I
be a
think
world. That would be a
now.
world. That'd be a worldwide hit. If they had an album, if they had a record label behind it, and all that kind of stuff, and it would have been, and it sounded that good. You could put that up against any of the Torch singers. The actual track. I mean, it's just fantastic. As is the album. I mean, it's my when I got my Spotify Wrapped, it was like albums you listen to the most. Guess what? It was You and the Damn Truth, Katie, and the Piling Poets. That was it. And then so I checked the other day, and you're still up there. You're still listed you regular as well. And that was one of my reasons why I wanted to get you on as a guest was because I wanted to talk about the album itself, which is called Dented Halos. For anybody that's watching or listening in the podcast that doesn't know Amelia, go check the album out. It's absolutely superb. It's all killer, no filler. I mean, obviously, you don't get
So
that well. You don't get that with albums much. I can say this. You're not paying me either, so it's all good. But it's very much there's a theme through lyrical theme, which interested me. I can read it, I can tell what it's about, but it was, I put myself in that perspective of thinking, Christ, could I have done that? Could I have been that personal? And it was just to see about, for your perspective, the different tracks and the not so much what was behind them, but what it was like for you. Had you written it before you went into the studio? You know, just could you just talk us through the process of the songwriting, lyric, and the lyrics and the studio, please?
So I don't write for albums. That's something that I don't sit down and go, okay, I'm going to release an album. I'm going to into the studio to record an album, and this is how many tracks, and these are the amount of songs I need to write for it. I just write. I find if I put any sort of parameters around my writing, then it just it goes away. I just can't get writer's block. So my bodies, my EPs, my albums, they're all collections of songs that have kind of been written over the years, some of them are a few years old. And then they kind of start coming together. There starts to be a theme that kind of weaves them together. And I think, oh, I like that one. I want to record that one. Well, it kind of goes with this one actually, and I want to record this one. And then it kind of compile that way. So everything was already written when we went into the studio. We performed some of them a few times as well. Some of them not so much. Some of them I actually swapped out in the months running up to the studio time and said, actually, we're not going to do this one. We're going to do this, or I've added this track in. I think initially I had 9 songs, and then I wrote a 10th one. I was like, this needs to go on the album. This fits perfectly with everything else, and I love it. Um, so it's they're all from different points of life. They're all from different eras, different years, different months. Different things that were happening. Um, and the thing I find interesting with this album as well is that it features quite a few songs that are not necessarily about me, or they're kind of about scenarios that are somewhat fictional or inspired by fictional events,
So like
which
you're
historically,
writing it in the third party kind of style. Yeah.
yeah. So there are some tracks on there that are written on the behalf of friends. So, I've seen someone else or a friend going through something and written from their perspective or written about that situation that they've got going on. There are some that there's one in particular, the one that gave the album its title is called Does She Know? And that is actually written about, based on 3 characters in a book that I was reading at the time. It came from a song prompt because I thought I was totally washed up and never going to write a good song again. My writer's block was so bad, so I got a bunch of song prompts, and it came out of that. And I've never liked the songs that I write in that way or that aren't directly about me. So it was kind of a real journey for me as well of finding a new way of expressing a new inspiration. And obviously, there's always something rooted in how I felt and or what I would imagine something would feel. So it is still coming from me, but it's almost expanding the subject matter beyond what I have directly experienced.
I'm
And the
pleased at
really
that. I'm pleased at that, Amelia, to be honest, because by the time I finished the album, I was like, fucking hell, she said she must have had a bad time since the last time I saw her. So I'm glad in a way, because I'm glad in a way that it wasn't all about just about you, because
some of it, not all of it,
yeah.
but it's funny, like the songs kind of evolve as well. And there was one in particular. Um, I don't need to go into detail, but if you listen to Without You, that was written about a friend the year prior to its release, and then by the time it came around, it felt very autobiographical.
It's funny that, isn't it? That yeah, I can imagine that because I thought I would have sworn. I mean, I don't know anything about you, to be honest with you, but when I listened to that one and Take It All, I'm thinking something's definitely happened here that I'm not aware of. But if that's all about her, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of it's funny that, isn't it? It's like, and sometimes you listen to things or you read a book that doesn't really gel with you, and then years later, something happens in your life and you go, fucking hell, that's what. Yeah, I remember that.
Hmm. I've had many, many instances over the years where I've written a song kind of being like, I don't really know what it's about. And then a few months later, or a year later, or a couple of years later, I'm like, oh, that's what that's about. I get it now.
It was a pre-warning.
Yeah, it was a solid foreshadowing moments. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's there are absolutely songs in there as well that are first-hand experiences, and that have been, if I told you the story behind it, but I like to keep the mystery, so I don't go into it too much.
Oh
But
no, I wouldn't expect you to. I was to say, before we started recording, I said that to you. I don't want to delve into anything like that. It was just I was. And did you think the ones that were actually personal, um, like your story, did you find it cathartic to do it in the studio, or did you find it hard going?
yeah, absolutely, it's in the putting them down in the studio. It's such a different realm, and I do actually. when I'm recording, because I really want to bottle that feeling and that emotion, I do put myself back into it. And there is a kind of like my
Method
Jodie
acting.
picking at old wounds, picking at
Oh.
old scars, to really get that emotion. I mean, I can say about him sometimes, but he goes through a really good songwriting period. And I'm like, you okay? You good? um, but it's true. It's to really do the songs justice. You either draw on something that's happened since, or you're drawing on those feelings. And every time that you play songs, if you're really tapped into it, you are reliving it. And it is a little bit masochistic in that way. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to hurt myself a little bit, to really pull this song off. But every time, that I play it, it's there in some way. And actually, sometimes when I'm not feeling so great, and I've got a gig and I've got to go, and I've spoken to friends, that are the same, and you go play a gig and you're not feeling so hot yourself, and you sort of play one of these songs that are really brutal, you really connect with it, and it is cathartic, and it is because it's an outlet. It's a way to express it. It's an outlet, a healthy outlet to pour into. That's not gonna. It's not gonna hurt anybody, and it's gonna help heal. It's gonna help heal yourself. It's gonna hopefully help heal the people that are listening to it as well. And you bring them whatever kind of comfort or feeling with it. So it's actually a good thing when it hurts when you need it to,
Just
in my
close the
opinion.
window because just close the window because the wind's blowing the door. I can hear it banging. I'm like, oh God, sorry about that. How many times when you've been playing it live or people that's listened to your album have come to you and said that song spoke directly to them or that's now their song? You must have had that.
Yeah, I've had that with a couple different songs. Take It All has probably had the most response of that one, to be honest. And I always feel a little bit sad because I'm like, because of the contents of it, and I'm like, okay, you've yeah, we've felt in similar ways, where I know just them saying that, something quite intimate and vulnerable about them.
Hmm.
And sometimes, I'm sad, but I'm also happy that they've now got that song to feel seen and feel heard and feel like they're not alone in it and they're understood, and there's other people around that really connect with that, how whatever the story around that is. And I don't need to know the stories around them either, but it's just that it's that human connection moment, and I think
Hmm.
that's another point of particularly music and the arts is to make those connections. But I've had it on other songs like Rosary Beads, that has completely become somebody else's song since they came and told me their story and how they interpreted it, and how it related, and it really did fit into their life. And I think of them every time that I sing it now. It's truly become their song, and I think that's just so it's the highest honor as a songwriter that you can have, really, is somebody saying, that's me. In that song that you've written, that is me, and I'm seen and understood, and that is the best outcome from releasing songs, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like sounds. So when I listen to the album the first time, and even yet, every time I listen to it, as soon as Dirty Little Lies comes on, or Dirty Little Lie, it just reminds me, it takes me back to the 1977, 78 when Fleetwood Mac Rumours. Yeah,
That is exactly what I was aiming for with that song. I am
thank God.
vaguely
I thought I was going to blow it myself out of the water there.
huge Fleetwood Mac fan. I through many of their eras as well, not just the Rumours, but the Rumours is my favorite. And I love Stevie Nicks, and Confession. The opening chords are the same structure, shall we say, as the ones in Dreams, which is why it's got that
Oh,
esque kind of vibe
right.
to it. Don't come at me, Fleetwood Mac, please. That is exactly what I was aiming for with that song, so that thrills me to hear that.
No, it takes me straight back because I can remember being so at 77, I was 16. So, it was at the time when I was buying my own, I'd started working, so I was buying my own albums for the first time ever. And I think I probably wore that one out along with Meat Loaf and all the kind of usual stuff at that time. Because that was a fantastic time for music of that genre. And it was brilliant. So yeah, but yeah, every time I hear it, it transports me back. Even though it's not one of their songs, it just transports me back to that, and I find myself smiling because, like, I was 16 at the time, I didn't know anything, so it was great. The world was fucking my oyster. I didn't realize it was going to end up like this, but that's another story. But yeah, no, it's brilliant, and things like hard to read.
Hmm.
God Almighty, I have been in that situation so many fucking times. You know, people that are just like, for God's sake, I'm very black and white. You know, I'm almost autistic that way. You know, I'm like, there's no shades of grey. I'm just like, yeah, I'll tell you now how I feel, or I won't tell you. But it's like when people, whenever I deal with people, and I'm in sales and marketing, so if I ever come across somebody that I find it's difficult
Mm.
it throws me. You know, it does throw me. So that's another one. Every time I find myself laughing at it because it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable because I don't like being out of control, and I'm thinking I've been there, I've done that so many bloody times.
Mm. Yeah, that one doesn't get mentioned very much, so I love hearing that. That's great.
I don't know why, because it's a superb song. I love it. Absolutely love it. And Call Me by Her Name. To be fair, there isn't a bad one on it. But Call Me by Her Name, as soon as I hear that track starting, that puts me in a
Mm.
good mood. Even though it's a sad song for some reason, it makes me feel. I don't know whether it's like a comfort blanket.
Maybe, maybe. Jody, yeah, Jody calls it a dagger. I sent him when I first wrote it. He's because Jody being another songwriter, we exchange songs and we first write them. We sort of say, oh, it's the voice memo. I'm like, all right, this one, Stay. What do you think? And I sent him that one when I wrote it, and he just went, fucking hell, that's a dagger, that. And he always brings it up. So whenever he's at a show, I always play it because I know it's gonna get him. That's really cruel, but
Yeah. A dagger, yeah, or what is it you say? A fist inside a velvet glove.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. A clenched fist inside a velvet glove. It's brilliant. So what you up to currently? I don't mean sitting here
Oh,
talking to me. I mean obviously new
yeah.
music or touring or
Gosh, it's kind of we're in March now, so it feels like March hit and everybody just woke up and now everything's happening and the bookings are coming in and planning the tour plannings and things like that. I mean, I've been planning my 2026 tours for a little while, imminently heading off to Switzerland and Germany for a little bit of a
oh lovely.
European, yeah, doing some co-headline stuff with Sophie Rose. And I mean, this month I'm actually joining Sophie on her UK debut tour for a few dates, just sort of guesting in her set. We kind of discovered that our voices and musicianship go quite well together, so we like to work together wherever we can. But in terms of my own, yeah, just kind of booking gigs in, booking the Dented Halos acoustic tour, sort of doubling up on the tours for this when we did the album launch tour last year, and then in the autumn this year it's going to be more of a stripped back, new arrangements version of it, making something a bit special in some intimate venues across the UK. Um, and yeah, just putting and writing, just trying to pull some, see what materials kind of pulling together at the moment and what the next record might shape up to be.
Oh, that's cool. So you've got management. You work with management, don't you?
Yeah, I work with Hen House Presents and their sort of collectives. We work collaboratively in terms of direction and management and bookings and things like that. But I'm a very hands-on person.
Yeah, I can
So I
imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
did everything. But yeah, Tanya is a great sounding board for starters. And yeah, is helping me kind of like just look, shift the load a little bit because it comes being an independent artist comes with a lot of admin and that can sometimes get in the way of the creating.
Oh, we have this conversation regularly, Ian and I, when we do these podcasts, and
Mm,
when we speak to people that are been in the industry a long time, they say that's the thing that's different now is like you can't make money, you don't make enough money to be able to afford
yeah,
people to do all the stuff that you need, and you need to be 98%, 95% business and 5% creative nowadays if you really want it to
yeah.
work. So how do you find the live scene for you just now? You know, like is it most people are struggling and losing money, not making money? Is it how do you find it?
It's getting better. I do try and be as smart as possible. Not smart because it's not smart to go out gigging and stuff, but I try and be strategic. Try and be as strategic as possible in terms of the live sort of, yeah, the live shows and where I'm going. And this year particularly, I have scaled back in terms of what. doesn't feel like it at the moment, but I have scaled back in terms of number of shows that I'm doing and festivals and such as well. Because as great as festivals are, they're not always very well paid. And I have a band to take out on the road. I have them to consider, and they they deserve to be fairly paid. They've been very very generous to me and continue to be very very generous to me with their time, playing for me and such. But I really am at a point that I want to make sure they're getting fairly compensated for their time as well. So there are less shows, but with that comes an opportunity to really focus in on them and get creative with them and really make them memorable, thoughtful shows. And that's something that I've been inspired to do through working with Sophie and her shows. She's an event organizer as well, through the project with her and Nicole Allen as well, Country Women. And that's one that's kind of been being a bit of a focus this year as well, as that collective project.
I've seen that on
Um,
social media. Yeah, I've seen you. I don't see you so much on social media. I don't know whether it's just my algorithms, but I've seen you with that one with the country women. Is there three of them or so, three of you or something, is there?
it's
Yeah.
myself, Rose and Nicole Allen, and then the idea is that each show that we do, we have another guest. So the first one we did at the Foundry in Brecon, with Rebecca Richards, who is just she's an awesome person and an awesome musician and songwriter as well. She's brilliant, and it's just it's Sophie's. So it's born from Sophie's concept, and she invited myself and Nicole on to kind of found it. Um, and the idea behind it is to create that collective and that collective energy and the working together and collaboration, not just between artists, but between venues and artists as well, and other people involved, anyone really, and just making it an open space, particularly with a focus of women, and women in the country music scene. I think we get very bored of being pitted against each other, and as much as it's like, oh, we're all friends and one big happy family and things like that, a lot of pitting against each other does happen. And I mean, we've all had it said to us, "Oh, so and so's doing this. Why aren't you doing that? Or you should do this. This is what such and such did." Or I've had it told to me, "Oh, you're like a young version of this other person." And I'm like, and I respect these people. I absolutely do respect these people. It doesn't come from a place that I don't want to be compared to them, because it's lovely. But at the same time, I am myself and they are doing what they are doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. And none of us are entitled to what somebody else is doing. We're all working, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to get to similar places. We're all in the same boat. And we do a lot better to work together and collaborate than sit and bitch about each other, or, say, oh, how the hell did they get that? I should be on that, or I want to be on that. Or, what are they doing what have they got that I haven't? And it's like, if we ditched that kind of competitive sort of narrative that has been fed to us, then, and actually work together, then we'd get a lot further for starters. And we'd probably be quite a lot happier in that as well.
I must admit, one of my pet hates, and this is not a dig at anybody, but one of my pet hates is Battle of the Bands and things like that. I just don't think to me, usually it's rigged as hell anyway, and it's not actually a true reflection of what people see or hear. So that's the first thing. But other than that, I just think it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Pick if you want to get a band to play your gig or get a band to play in your festival, just bloody pick them and put them on. Don't you know? But we all know what it is. It's just a way that they use to keep the algorithms going on social media, because it gets a lot of people talking, gets a lot of people involved. So I can understand it purely from a marketing perspective. But my bands that I've worked with, I've always hated them going in for anything like that, simply because I know more often than not it won't be fair.
No, I can understand the platforms, but there are definitely other ways to build those platforms to create that music discovery and showcase that music than
Mm.
competition. I also, and this might be a little bit controversial to some, I don't really care, but I also don't really believe in awards. I think they're a popularity contest, particularly the ones where it's just message as many people, that you can to vote for you or nominate you, because obviously that's going to work. The more people that they can get to just fill a form out, there's no actual real significance in that. It's
No.
great, fantastic, but it's not real. And I've done it myself. I've tried it myself. I used to put a lot of value into the awards and things, and there were a couple of years where certain awards I kind of was like, I didn't really put any effort into it and I didn't get nominated. And the following year, I was like, I want to see something, I want to try something. And, and I did, and I messaged out loads of people and I got other people to message out loads of people and I got nominated. And the following year, I didn't do it and I didn't get nominated. And I'm not saying, that that's because, oh, well, I should be nominated every time or whatever. But it was a little kind of experiment for myself to also prove to myself that these are entirely riggable and they are not ever a reflection on the actual, and this goes right up to the high awards, all the Academy Awards and things. It's the same thing. It's a popularity contest. It's never a reflection on the actual quality of the work. And frankly, having a competition or awards for something as subjective as art is just a bit backwards, really, isn't it? Because
Preach it, preach
it
it. I feel exactly, and I've always felt the same. I just think it's, and in some cases, and I'll be controversial here, I know some of these awards that come out, especially in the metal and rock, and it's given to people that are spending a lot of money putting them on their radio stations, and using them for marketing and all that. It's all nonsense.
for the price tag at the end of the day, you can, and then and again, that's another, I mean, I'm not going to speak on it too much because I don't come from that background, but the I'm in a position where I have had access to funding, I have had access to music lessons, I have had, been able to do crowdfunding, or I've been able to borrow money, or I've just been in a position where I can, pay for studio time, things like that. And people with higher budgets and have had more access to like PR and things like that. Things like that are no measure on quality or talent or effort or time put into them or motivation. So much of these things come with a price tag that it's just, it's a lot easier for those that have the disposable income to be able to invest all the investment, from other people or wherever they get it from. They have that investment to be able to put into it, which means it cuts out a whole group of people who are from
Working
other
class
backgrounds
people usually.
to that.
Yeah.
So again, it's great PR if you do get nominated or you do, and I have the nominations listed on my website,
Hmm.
but personally and creatively, they have no bearing because they're not real. They're not a real reflection. They're never going to be a real reflection on talent, quality, and and what and consumer, what people like, because that purely comes from the audiences that you find and find you, and they're subjective as hell. So
Mm.
you find the people that like you, they find you, and they matter. The ones that are listening to the you matter. You matter to me way more than some award does because you love what I do, you connect with what I do, you listen to the little songs that I've written on my own in my bedroom, that I've put out. Those are the people that matter.
Oh,
Sorry, I got my.
yeah, I agree. I'd much rather somebody came up to me at one of my gigs and went, "Love that song," or "It made me think of this," or "I've got your album or I've got your record and I really love it because of this." I would never standing there with some stupid award that, let's face it, like you say, means nothing. What means I'd rather have 20 people at a gig singing the lyrics of my song back to me.
I've never felt the same rush seeing an award nomination than I have hearing or been moved to the same point hearing people singing my lyrics back at me at a show. That is the most ultimate feeling. That's moved me to tears multiple times. And
Yeah.
it feels like such a real mark of progress because these people have listened enough to learn the lyrics and they've spent their money to come and watch me sit on a stage or stand on a stage and sing at them, And I try and give, as much as I can at those shows as well and really make it, because I am conscious of that people are spending their hard-earned money buying merch, buying the tickets, and they want to be part of that, and I want them to be part of that. And obviously there is the business side of it. I do need to make money from it, but the real soul filling takeaway is those connections and connecting with all these people, and hopefully that grows. But the main motivation for that growing is one, to to be able to reach those people and say, here, I've got this for you. You know, if you need it, if you want it, if you like it, it's for you. That's what
Mm,
putting music out is. Because otherwise, I'd write songs all day long. I wouldn't stop being a songwriter if I didn't release
mm,
music. No one would hear them. That's all.
mm.
But then obviously there's the motivation of this is my dream to make a career out of this and do it full time. That would be great. You know, make money off of my music. But that the priority is finding the people that are going to connect with that because then it's a relationship.
Yeah, and that is the game that has to be played these days. Create what makes you happy, and then find the people that's going to buy into that, and make them real fans, not transient listeners. And that is
Yeah.
more difficult now because certainly a lot of the younger generation are music is a background noise to them. They don't invest in it. It's I have a 19-year-old daughter that lives here, and it's the music's just on in the background. She's got terrible taste in music, bless her. And but yeah, so there is a lot of that. So it's difficult to break through. So coming to, just we need to wrap up in a bit because we don't want this show to be taking up too much of your time. And I've absolutely loved having you on. But who are you listening to currently? Is there any sort of artists you'd point people in the direction of other than
I'm a
yourself?
listener, so I'm like terrible at knowing who they are. If there's something really captures me and I want to go see them live, I'll look. But I love to put playlists on shuffle, which might not be so great. I mean, the artists that come to mind are, it's funny being a musician and choosing artists as well because there's like peers that I see like my friends or things people that I gig with or see all the time and I do listen to their music and then there's like artists that I'm like idols I look up to and in terms of like the idols and stuff it's people like Larkin Poe,
Oh yeah.
um Ableton, oh, who do I keep putting well obviously Fleetwood Mac is like a massive one for me as well and Stevie Nicks, Dorothy, sort of it's very much sort of on the blues Americana side of things. But then there's people that I know as well. So there's like Els Bailey. I love Els Bailey's newest album. It makes me happy. I love it so much. Um, and then like when my friends and I know it's kind of like oh well you're saying that because you gig with them. I'm saying that because I genuinely love their music and that's why I gig with them. Sophie Rose,
Yeah.
Nicole Allen, Sue Meg, Katie O'Malley, Katie Hurt as well. Recently gigged with her as well. She's fab, absolutely fab. Um,
I started
yeah,
listening. I started listening
it's
recently to Keziah Gill. I'd never listened to her new album. Is it Keziah Gill? Red haired lass. And that album is really good. I love it as
yeah,
well. Yeah, yeah. She's a bit sort of
it's
American as well.
cool. And like the other point where I'm like, I know these people, like, but they're pretty. It's that weird kind of duality of like, I'm a music fan, but I'm also a musician running in the same circles as these people.
Mm.
It's such really bizarre, but it's also really cool because it's like I get to like play music and be on lineups with like musicians that I really like to listen to musicians that I'm a fan of. I'm a fan on the lineup with these people. It's very, very fun.
I discovered one recently, and I think it was just on TikTok or one of them things. It was just, and she's an Australian girl called Iluka, Iluka, and oh my God, I mean, she's a bit out there. There's a little bit of country twang in it, but it's like there's bits of rap in it. You should check her out. The album, The Wild, The Restless, and the something or other. Can't remember, but it's a fantastic album. Honestly,
Cool.
check it out. So that's what it is. She's called Iluka. And there's another one I got into because of Ugly. My friends at an Ugly Club, yeah, they've been trying to get on their tour, so I checked it out. Got a band called Yanaka, and it's great. I love discovering like new acts I've never heard before, and you just go, my God, where have they been? Like I remember doing it 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago when it was Youngblood, and he came in the scene, and I was like, oh, this guy's brilliant. In fact, on the 12th of April, it'll be my 65th birthday, and I'm going to see him live in Liverpool, my 65th birthday. Yeah, so
Oh,
that's.
I'll have the best time.
I'm going to make sure. I don't know if my missus is that keen. I don't think she knows any of his songs, but she's getting dragged along anyway because it's my birthday. Yeah. So, just to wrap it up, can you give anybody that's watching or listening to the show your socials, your links, or is there any place to find everything about you?
Yeah, you can find almost everything about me, apart from my social security number, on my website, emiliaquinnmusic.com. It's got everything listed on there. But if you put Emilia Quinn Music into any of the socials, it should bring me up on there. I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
Get yourself in TikTok, it's the future.
I came off TikTok because I just found it absolutely horrendous.
I think it's changed a lot now, though. Like it always does. You know, I can remember when YouTube started and it was just daft little videos of fainting gorillas and goats that jumped off things and all that kind of stuff. But it eventually became a lot more serious. And TikTok's done the same now. TikTok now that you know you can. I find a lot of brilliant music on there now. And I
It's
mean,
really
me and
great.
me and Ian and we interviewed Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records. Now he's the guy that's been running metal for 40 odd years. I mean, he was the first guy that recorded and put out like some Metallica and Slayer and all them. And he was saying the only place he looks for new music now is TikTok.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
mean that I have mixed feelings about that.
Ah, you're perfect for it. Get on there. Then at least I'll catch up with more of your stuff. I mean, Facebook's dead in the water now, isn't it? Facebook's dead in the water. I mean, it's just so restricted now.
It's different demographics, but that's going back into the, you have to wear all of the hats being an independent artist, and social media manager is one of them, and how quickly social media shifts is just it's interesting, and trying to preserve mental health in a landscape where social media is actually can be very, very damaging, but it's so wholly necessary. It sort of feels extremely necessary as a tool for independent music. It's an interesting one to navigate. I know quite a few friends that struggle with it, and I have and do sometimes struggle with it, especially balancing the time spent on them and the kind of validation around it, but remembering that ultimately it all comes back to just remember ultimately it's a tool. It's not real. It's not real life. It's not currency.
Yeah.
It's a way to reach people and for people to keep up with you, but that's limiting it to that, and a place to share creative content, but not creating for the platform is a balance to sort of strike, I think.
I mean, I just tell everybody it's a short window. It's a short
Yeah,
window. You know, it's
that's it.
that's what it is. It's just a short window. Put yourself out there. Don't try and be something you're not, but it's just another way of somebody discovering you that might
Yeah.
love what you do. So anyway, thank you very much, Amelia. It's been an absolute really enjoyed it. It's been a blast. So when we put this out, we'll let you know, and we'll also put all your links to your website and all the socials and everything on it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been really, really great.
Nah, I appreciate that. So there you go, folks. Go check Amelia out. I promise you, you'll love what you hear. And you know what to do. Subscribe. Keep following us. Tell your mates. Tell all your friends. Tell your family. Tell your next door neighbours about the Scouser and the Scot. And in the next show, we'll even have the Scouser back. Anyway, over and out.